Hello, Matthew here for Simple Flying. It's another podcast video adaptation, and this week it's just Channing rather than the usual Channing and Tom. Here are the recent pieces of news that'll be covered in this episode. First up is the launch of Alaska and Hawaiian's combined loyalty program, Atmos Rewards. Then, Channing will discuss how a Delta Airlines Boeing 737-800 was grounded after a wing flap partially broke off in flight. The third story covers two incidents and why United and Delta pilots refused to fly their respective assigned services. And finally, we'll go over an incident involving a Volaris Airbus A320neo in Phoenix. So, if any of those stories interest you, we hope you'll keep watching.
And we begin with our big story that is Alaska Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines just announcing their new combined loyalty program. And of course, we know that both airlines have been on a mission to transform global travel. We've talked about their expansion with their international routes. And now the airline is launching their new program called Atmos Rewards, an evolved supercharged loyalty program that unifies the best of Mileage Plan and Hawaiian Airlines Hawaiian Miles into a combined platform to deliver more choice, more rewards, and more global access than ever before to its passengers. Now, Atmos Rewards continues the generosity that Mileage Plan has long been known for. Alaska has the #1 airline rewards program. That's according to a U.S. News and World Report. And it's getting even better. That's what the airline says. Atmos Rewards will offer new ways to earn valuable points across an extensive worldwide network spanning over 1,000 destinations. And that, of course, is connected by the strength of Alaska, Hawaiian, and more than 30 global airline partners, including the One World Alliance, which Hawaiian Airlines will soon join. The airline has also assembled a rich collection of partners to earn points with when their members are not flying. Now, this is a quote from Andrew Harrison, the Chief Commercial Officer at Alaska. He said, quote, "Atmos Rewards is more than a loyalty program. It's a reflection of how guests travel today. We listened to what our members value most and built a program that's grounded in generosity, personalization, and practicality. We're putting our members in the pilot seat, giving them control over how they earn and redeem while honoring the legacy and values of both Alaska and Hawaiian." So this is some exciting news here, and the airline continues to say that Atmos Rewards is the global airline program. It's going to encourages passengers to tailor their program to their travel style and choose what matters to them, from flexible point earning options to preferred perks and personalized benefits and the new Atmos communities. This is something that we've kind of been following behind the scenes a little bit. We knew that with the announcement of this merger that we would see a combined loyalty program, and this is what we have. As we dive a little bit deeper into this, the airline is kind of disclosing 3 different ways that passengers can earn their miles now with this new program. They're introducing a first for a global airline that gives their passengers ultimate flexibility. Later in 2026, points and status points can be earned in one of 3 ways when flying with both airlines. Passengers can select the earning option that works best for them and change their preference once a year. We're looking at distance traveled. They can earn based on how far they go, with 1 point for every mile flown. Of course, that looks more like the traditional way of a mileage program. The airline says for thrifty travelers who take cross-country or international trips, it might be the best choice for them. There's also price paid. Earn 5 points for every $1 spent when purchasing a flight. This includes airfare and upgrades purchased in premium cabins. For all travelers flying in the premium cabin, including lie flat suites, the airline says that might be the best choice for them. And also segments earn. Passengers can earn a flat 500 points for each flight segment flown. For flyers who take numerous short distance flights, such as those between neighbor islands in Hawaii or within California, this option guarantees a set number of points on every trip as well. I'm sure that also applies to Alaska's famous Milk Run flights as well. The airline is really encouraging passengers to reward themselves when, of course, they get enough miles and points to do so. Passengers can redeem their points for reward travel to more than 1,000 destinations on Alaska, Hawaiian, and 30 plus global airline partners, including the One World Alliance Airlines as well. And redemptions, they're only starting at 4,500 points one way as of now. So some exciting news here for both Alaska Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, and those who are frequent flyers on both carriers. And it also comes as the airline is really working on expanding their Wi-Fi network across all of their aircraft. And so we know that Hawaiian was one of the first U.S. airlines to introduce Starlink, and now that will be rolled out across Alaska Airlines planes as well, which we know that Starlink has very great reviews in terms of how fast you can stream and really have no disruptions on board. Alaska is saying that its fleet of Boeing 737 aircraft, the installation of Starlink will begin in 2026 and will be completed in 2027. So some very, very good news coming out of Alaska Airlines, the Alaska Airlines Group, I should say, which is the parent company of both Alaska and Hawaiian. So we'll have to definitely look forward to how the Wi-Fi rolls out, and of course how this new Atmos Rewards program will come on as the airline continues in combining as one carrier with, of course, two different brands, that is. All right, so we're going to move on now and talk a little bit about a Delta Airlines complication that occurred. Some of you listening to the podcast, you might have seen the viral video that a passenger took of this flight. This Boeing 737-800 operating a Delta flight 1893 was flying from Orlando International Airport to Austin Bergstrom International Airport, and something went wrong in flight. Passengers noticed that the wing flap had partially broken away from the wing. One passenger who spoke to CNN said, quote, "We felt it was bad turbulence. The plane was shaking. The lady in front of us opened the window and told us it is broken. I opened the window and got scared." Now, you can only imagine seeing that outside the window, right? As you're several thousand feet up into the air, you can see that the wing is broken. Passengers were worried that the wing, the whole flap could have fallen off. Now, that most likely could have been a cause for concern, but thankfully the aircraft was able to land safely. And Delta said in a statement that it was observed that the portion of the left wing's flap was not in place. Of course, that's what the video depicts as well. The airline continued to say the aircraft has been taken out of service for maintenance. Now, flaps are surfaces on the back of the wing designed to be extended for takeoff and landing. There were 62 passengers on board this flight. Mind you, the Boeing 737-800 holds, well over 100 people. So this was a very, very light flight. 6 crew members on board the plane, thankfully no injuries. Delta is also working with the FAA for this investigation as to what might have went wrong. The airline also issued an apology saying, quote, "We apologize to our customers for their experience, as nothing is more important than the safety of our people and customers." So this investigation, of course, is fairly new. It'll be ongoing. We'll have to see really what may have went wrong. Was this an inspection issue? Was it really bad turbulence that caused this flap to detach partially from the wing? We'll have to see what the investigation shows. But we did do some research on this aircraft. This is a 24-year-old airframe, according to planespotters.net. So, this aircraft has been flying around for quite some time, and Delta has several other 737-800s that are of this age. So, it might be a sign for them to do further inspections on other aircraft. But again, that's going to have to rely on what the investigation uncovers. Again, whether it was really bad turbulence, was it a maintenance issue? The airline, of course, planning on operating these planes for the years to come. And thankfully, again, no injuries reported with that incident. All right. Why did United Airlines and Delta Airlines pilots refuse to fly their respective flights? This also making the headlines over the past couple of days. We'll begin with the United Airlines flight. This is coming from a passenger who went on Reddit as James G 3111. That's the username, and basically shared a little bit about what happened on their flight, which was United Airlines flight 1679 from San Francisco to Cancun. And the passengers said, quote, "First, our flight was delayed due to technical issues. Then, waiting for paperwork to get completed, someone smoked weed in the front bathrooms. They got removed from the flight and then sat on the plane for about 40-ish minutes waiting for the crew to figure out what to do." Now, some people might be asking, well, what was the crew figuring out what to do, right? They were concerned that they got exposed, secondhand smoke from the marijuana. This actually caused the flight to deplane completely and get a brand new crew. Now, according to this passenger, the captain said, quote, "I have 30 years left of my career at United. I'm not willing to risk getting drug tested when I get to Houston." So the airline did what they needed to do. They got another crew, but the flight was delayed 4 hours, according to FlightAware. It finally made its way to Cancun. But some people are saying that the pilot, the crew, they did the right thing. We do know that pilots are drug tested at random. So at any point they could be subjected to a drug test. And, this pilot, 30 years left of his career, I can only imagine that he's just now starting his career, doesn't want to get off on the wrong foot. So it does make sense for them to take that precaution. But, you can only imagine being stuck 4 hours just because one passenger broke the law. It's definitely by law, you cannot smoke on board the aircraft. Other passengers on board were also dealing with a delay. This was a Delta Airlines flight and was due to a similar situation. The captain rather, deciding not to fly the flight. And this was not because a passenger was breaking the law on board, but rather this pilot was not convinced about the safety of the aircraft. A Delta Airlines Boeing 757-200 captain rejected the aircraft, citing safety concerns despite maintenance teams clearing it for departure. So this news also coming from a passenger who posted on Reddit. They were flying on Delta Airlines flight 466 from Atlanta to Las Vegas. And the passenger said, quote, "I scanned my boarding pass for the flight and the captain comes out of the jet bridge and tells gate agents to suspend all boarding. I'm at the jet bridge and I looked at him and the gate agent and wondered what we were supposed to do. The captain said, 'Come get a drink,' and that it was going to be a bit." This passenger went on to say that the captain told them that they were flying that exact plane, the day before from Miami to Atlanta. And that captain put in a maintenance request for a faulty elevator. And to the passenger's description, he explained as the thing that makes the plane go up and down. Yes, that is the elevator. But upon further review from maintenance, the log showed, quote, "no issue found." And of course, that didn't sit well with the captain and he felt that it was still faulty and was not comfortable flying the aircraft and essentially rejected the aircraft. So maintenance showed up eventually and said that all was well, and they spent 9 hours of investigation and repairs after the captain reported the issue. Maintenance cleared it and said it was all good to fly, but the captain came on the PA system and suspended boarding and said that after 25 years with Delta and over 20,000 hours flying with the 757, he knows when something is wrong. Captain also said he hasn't rejected an airplane in over a decade and trusts maintenance 100%, but goes with his gut when it says things are not what they should be. That captain has, of course, put his foot down, and the passengers were delayed due to that situation. Delta did deploy another aircraft, thankfully, and that flight was able to get on its way after a couple hours of being delayed. But that is, it's definitely something that made the headlines because you don't ever really hear that that often where a captain kind of goes against what maintenance is saying and decides, hey, this is not safe for us to continue flying the aircraft. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. I would say that maybe it's better safe than sorry. Of course, we've got a captain with over 2 decades of experience flying that specific aircraft. I would say that maybe it is better safe than sorry, because you don't want to ever get up into a flight and deal with something up into the air and deal with something that goes wrong. So, but again, the cost of that is a significant delay at that. So the passenger did on Reddit, they did say that flight, they were able to make up some of the time in the air. The passenger also said, quote, "Delta for the win. Even though inconvenience, prioritizing safety is greatly appreciated. Thank you, Captain Shane and First Officer Michael." Another story we're reporting on also has to do with safety and another unruly passenger. Volaris flight, you might have heard about this as well. Flying from Phoenix to Guadalajara was delayed significantly. And this was because a passenger decided to open up the exit during pushback, reportedly. So this flight was actually on time. It was ready to go. It was pushing back. And we had an unruly passenger who decided to, make it very delayed at that. So this flight, operated by an Airbus A320, was pushing back from the gate at Sky Harbor International Airport. That passenger, of course, decided to open up the exit. It deployed the emergency slide from that aircraft, and then, the plane can't fly at that point anymore. So what did they have to do? They had to go back to the gate, they had to deplane, and Volaris had to get a new aircraft. So the airline ended up ferrying a Airbus A320neo from Tijuana that landed in Phoenix, and then they were able to get that flight off on its way. The airline, we did reach out to the airline. They gave us a statement which confirmed the incident. It says, quote, "Volaris reports that on flight 1883, which was scheduled to serve yesterday, the Phoenix Guadalajara route." This happened on Tuesday, by the way. Passenger experienced a suspected anxiety attack while the aircraft was preparing for departure at Phoenix Airport. This led to disruptive behavior, resulting in the opening of one of the doors and the deployment of an emergency slide. The crew, with the assistance of a customer, were able to control the disrupted passenger. In accordance with safety protocols and to protect both passengers and crew, authorities were notified and intervened to remove the disrupted passenger from the aircraft. The rest of the passengers then disembarked safely by the jet bridge. All passengers and crew were safe and unharmed. Volaris iterates that safety is the highest priority and deeply regrets the inconvenience this situation caused for passengers. As I just reported, the replacement aircraft was dispatched, and it ended up arriving in Guadalajara about 6 hours after its scheduled arrival time. Rarely do you hear that it happens from a passenger who's going through an anxiety attack. So hopefully that passenger was able to get the help that they need, and that they are okay and on the mend right now. But that is something that, you can only imagine being on board and witnessing, something like that happens with an unruly passenger, disruptive behavior. What do you do in that moment, And it's great that there was another passenger on board who was able to help the crew and control that passenger. And of course, everybody got where they needed to be, just albeit about 6 hours late. All right, well, those are the top talkers for this week on the podcast. That is going to do it for today's podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. We do welcome any feedback you might have at editorial@simpleflying.com. For more great content, you can visit our website at simpleflying.com or find us on social media. Simply search for Simple Flying. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave us a rating on your favorite podcast player. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.
In addition to our daily YouTube videos, Simple Flying publishes over 150 articles and a podcast every week. Visit simpleflying.com.